chip on my shoulder.
We gathered the 3 most successful coaches in Chicago basketball history. They combined 13 state championship rings.
Once you give it, you can't get it back.
Coming together to give Chicago the show it deserves.
What a play by Terry Kelly.
Of the best basketball culture in the world. This is 13 Rings.
We've been doing a lot with the guys who've won state championships, so it's time for us to get our younger guys involved.
Do you think Coach Pops, you played in the Spurs organization?
Just so serious, but he had like this dry humor that like you didn't know if you should laugh.
We're playing Julian, and they had Sean Dockery there. They beat us. And Lauren Jackson, he was like, you talk too much.
This is a special surprise guest. If we're talking Johnny Selby, we got to talk to one of his college teammates.
This is crazy. Here's a guy who got shot and was playing like that. I mean, how do you do that? How do you get shot?
But who has the most mental intensity that you've ever seen?
This guy was a complete maniac. Tim Flowers, a complete nut. There was nothing going to happen to Derek, not while Tim was in the city.
I was just blessed to be able to come in behind a guy like Louis Thorpe.
He raised a lot of kids. It was just wasn't about just him just being the coach. He was more like a father figure.
He was going to dress. He was suited and booted every game.
One thing I believe, you got to keep it real. I'm happy for you, Nick, and I'm happy for myself because you're gone.
Hey, I appreciate you, brother.
So we're back at it again, episode 5 of 13 Rings, and for the first time we have 6 participants in here. We want to bring some of the young coaches along, so we got Justin Bowen from Kenwood, we got Carlos Toliver from North Lawndale. So guys, really looking forward to digging into your story. First though, I want to talk to one of the godfathers here in the room, Coach Rob Smith. Why did you want a chance to bring a couple of young coaches along into the show, Coach Rob?
Well, just to highlight Chicago Public League basketball and our young coaches who coming on and gonna take our places sometime soon, and they're just doing a great job. You know, I had a chance to coach against Justin 2 times this year, and just his energy and things like that, and just watch Carlos from afar. We actually live in, well, he lives in my old neighborhood where I grew up at now, so kind of watch these guys and just see them, you know, and just want to highlight them. You know, we've been doing a lot with the guys who've won state championships, so it's time for us to get our younger guys involved and let them know that we really do appreciate what they're doing, you know, and it's not just about us. You know, we probably get the more highlights, but just let the guys know that we do see the work that y'all are putting in.
Absolutely. So we got a bunch of state championship winners. Now let's talk to a couple people who are on the brink of winning state championships at the beginning of their exciting careers. So let's just go kind of top to bottom here. First of all, Carlos, where did you grow up, and who were your heroes when you were growing up in Chicago?
Well, you know, I grew up on the west side of Chicago, the Austin area.
Okay, so far west.
What you say now?
So far west. So OPRF didn't pluck you away.
West side of Chicago. My hero always have been my father. So my father was always my hero. Everybody got superheroes and look up to people outside of their household, but I was blessed to have a great father, and he was always my hero.
Who do you think's the best player to come out of Austin?
Out of Austin area or Austin High School?
Austin area.
Do we put Oak Park in? Oak Park too far down to be in the Austin area. But
sometimes those lines get blurred. Some kids kind of, you know, can go to the OPRF sometimes. Who do you think?
Well, if you say down that, if you going down that far, I have to go with McGetty.
You ever play against him?
Nah, but I know he was a beast.
Yeah.
Over awesome. In that area. That's why I have to go with in that area.
And who was your kind of basketball hero, like on the court? Who are the guys that you looked up to as basketball players growing up?
Well, when I came up, coming out of 8th grade, like a lot of people don't know too much about me playing ball, but coming out of 8th grade, I was recruited by King High School, and I went to King, and I looked up to a guy called Jamie Brandon. So Jamie Brandon was he was a senior when I was my 8th grade year. So yeah, I looked up to a guy called Jamie Brandon. I'm pretty sure everybody know who that is.
Awesome. So we got a little bit of the story there, and love to ask you about getting the North Lawndale job. First, though, let's Ask Justin Bowen. Justin, where did you grow up, and who were your heroes when you were growing up?
Also, myself, I grew up west side of Chicago, and early on in my life, my parents absolutely were my heroes. My mom, really strict. My dad, he's in my life up until I was 9. And, he passed away when I was 9 years old. But my family was so close-knit, I couldn't really go outside much or do anything because the neighborhood was so tough. So just seeing how hard my parents worked to provide for us early on in my life, they was my early heroes. And then, as I got to a point where I was able to get outside a little more and step out and see things more from a basketball standpoint, when I really got into basketball, that was when, Quentin Richardson was over at Whitney Young. And, that team that they had, not just with him, but with just the whole team, that was a team that I just looked up to. And then him personally, I had looked up to him just to see all his accomplishments and how he handled all the, publicity that was handed in his direction.
What do you guys think? Do we give JB the background award? You brought a fireplace to the podcast. That deserves a round of applause.
He won an award, first time on.
We thought nobody was going to top. We had Nick with the Western Illinois logos. We had Ty with the, Whitney Young Nation. But you brought a fireplace to the podcast.
Justin, I'm going to tell you first. Ty gonna said you won't be back on.
Well, you know what? Hold on. Now, I'm not going to say that. But, again, I don't think it's fair that he gets the award. He does not have a screen. I thought that the roar was the screen, not real ambiance. My God, we can't beat real ambiance. Come on, guys. That's not fair. Okay.
Well, Ty,
we'll let him say for today. What?
Ty, you won a background award again this week, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My God, there's a man who knows the background award.
Yeah.
But you know what? But really, we may have to give it to Gordon. I mean, look, nice. Yeah, we don't have those mugs. Yeah, we don't have those mugs. Yeah, we'll give it to him.
That's nice right there.
No mugs.
We'll give him an honorary.
The mugs will be back. I'm hanging out. I'm at Voight HQ right now in the bunker, so I had to take a break from the mugs, but they'll be back next week. Maybe, I don't know. I like this backdrop too.
Yeah, that background nice.
I want to get everybody a custom one so they can have our names and our logo. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I like it.
All right, so guys, I want to know about your story as coaches. So, obviously you wrap up your playing days. Justin, for you, that was something we could probably spend a whole, episode on, talking about your G League days and so forth. Coach Carlos, I want to know, how did the North Lawndale job come about? Because this is a program that won a state championship in 2008, winning the 2A state titles. This is a program that had some success. What's the story of how you came on board as head coach?
So the story of head coach, everybody know we lost our head coach, who was Coach Thorpe, who was one of my mentors, a great coach. He passed away, unfortunately lost to the North Lawndale community, to the city of Chicago. It was an unfortunate way to get it, but I was just blessed to be able to come in behind a guy like Thorpe and to keep this program running the way that he had it running.
What was the biggest takeaway? Everybody's got that mentor that changes the course of their career. For you, what was that footprint that he had in your life that changed you?
It's a lot of things. It's so many things, but one thing I take away from Coach Thorpe is, as a man, he taught me how to handle adversity. He really did. He taught me how to handle adversity. He was like a straight up guy, straightforward. He didn't beat around the bush. He didn't play games. You knew what it was with him. You didn't have to hear anything from anybody else. And he handled adversity so well. I remember when I first got there, things wasn't going well for North Lawndale. And I came in with a group of guys, but it was the guy, he's a tough guy. I took toughness away from him. Coach Thorpe was he was tough, man. A defensive guy, he just was tough. But the biggest thing I can say is he taught me how to handle adversity, man.
That's special. And, what was it like on the inside when that tragedy hit? Because even reading about it, I didn't even know him personally. That hit me. What was that like on the inside?
It was tough because I don't think a lot of people know the impact that Coach Thorpe had in North Lawndale College Prep. He was a teacher there. He was a dean there before, athletic director there before. He's done a lot of things there. And he'd been there for 20 years. So it was he had touched so many lives because he was more than a coach. to the scholars. You know, Coach Thorpe was like a father figure. He was always, it was bigger than basketball with him. He was a family man. He was family oriented, and he made sure he gave that to others that was around him. So when Coach Thorpe passed, man, like school class couldn't even take place. It was a disaster, man. Everybody was like devastated. So we couldn't even have class that day when Coach Thorpe passed. We just had counselors coming in and grief counselors, and we was in the auditorium, in the lunchroom, different sections of the building because nobody could even think straight that day.
Wow. Talk about bigger than basketball. That's proof of it right there.
I want to add a little something to that too about Coach Thorpe. Coach Thorpe was more than just a basketball coach. He reached out to a number of kids, and he raised a lot of kids. It was just wasn't about just him just being a coach. He was more like a father figure to a lot of them kids there. You know, I was blessed enough to have a good relationship with Coach Thorpe, and always call and talk to him and pick his brain a lot on a number of things. And he let some of his players play for our AAU organization and everything. And, you know, he was transparent with a lot of number of things. Him and my father was great friends. And, you know, sometimes when I get into a little jam, I need some sound good advice, I always reach out to him. And you know, he gave it to me. So I just want to, you know, just give a shout out to Coach Thorpe and just hope everybody could really continue to honor him and hope his legacy could live on, because he did more than just coach.
That's
And I got a story about Coach Thorpe, which was very interesting. We were playing North Lawndale, and it could have been either the quarterfinals or the semifinals. And the game was taking a long time to get ready to start. We was waiting on Coach Thorpe. And Coach Thorpe went to church. And after the game, he said, "Rob, me going to church is way more important than this game right now. I serve the Lord, so I went to church." So he couldn't coach the game. He couldn't be the head coach because he wasn't there in time for the jump ball or none of that stuff. And that was real huge at that time, just to get that from him, that he felt like God at that moment was more important than a basketball game for him, you know, and his family and stuff like that. And that's huge for, and it shows his, you know, his respect to the Lord and how he carried himself.
So true, Rob. And it's crazy that you say that, because I remember that moment like it was yesterday. I got the phone call in the locker room. He was telling us the same thing, you know, he had to go to church and I was going to have to be the head coach. And I'm like, wow. So when he got there, of course, he was late. So could you imagine me? I come in on the Thorpe, I look up to the guy, and he's sitting on the bench where I normally sit because they say he can't stand. And every second, so every time something happened, I'm looking down at Coach Thorpe to ask him what we doing, you know. So I remember that moment, man. That was like, it was an amazing moment. But I was like, I didn't even know how to handle the moment with looking down with Coach Thorpe sitting down on the bench like he was assistant coach. It was like a memory I'll never forget.
Yeah, I think for me, and we're talking about Coach Thorpe, I have a couple of different kind of takes on it. One of the things I think all of us on here will remember is that his impression on the game was huge, and it was huge early on because he used to actually run the Real Deal tournament. And any player that was a player, whether he was in Chicago or any place in Illinois, they were playing in the Real Deal. And you would see Coach Thorpe at the Real Deal. He was just orchestrating that whole day like it was almost like a concert. You know, you have players, you have games, you have all these people, and everybody and every player wanted to play in the Real Deal. Every player wanted to play in the Real Deal. If you were in grade school, you wanted to play in the Real Deal. Then we fast forward, and I become the head coach at Whitney Young, and now he's in my conference. So we're playing them. At one time, we were playing them twice a year, and then we play them once a year. And I would tell people there were two things that you knew when you played Coach Thorpe's team. Well, really three things. They were going to play hard as I don't know what. You were going to have to deal with the red. Yeah. And Coach Thorpe was going to be the haberdasher for the day because he was going to dress. He was going to dress. He was suited and booted every game. And then after the game, win or loss, he was going to hug you like it was the first time he'd ever met you in your life. And that was, you know, in Coach Thorpe. And I think so much of what he was to to North Lawndale, he was equally as much to the game of basketball in the public league. Everybody knew him. Everybody respected him. And, you know, and you knew when you played the North Lawndale team, it was not going to be an easy night. It was going to be a night that you would have to really prepare for. And so his loss is a void that we will not be able to replace in this league. And you know, hopefully now with Carlos taking over, you know, one of the things that we talked about on this show for the longest period of time is who is it that picks up the mantle when those of us that are older have left. And I think, as Rob said earlier, it is those guys like yourselves, like Justin. There are other guys out there, and we'll have them on at some point. But understanding that all of you guys are charged with the obligation of carrying this game across the finish line at whatever level it is. And really, that's what I have to say. And, you know, like I said, hey, welcome to the GOAT, and welcome to Carlos. Look forward to having a good afternoon. We'll have an opportunity to talk about when Rob beats you up, our GOAT. They'll talk about that. It's coming. And Carlos, we'll have an opportunity to talk about the 2 defeats you suffered under my hand. But we'll get to that later.
Don't chase them away. Ty always takes our guests away.
It's still early. They're not going anywhere.
Chris had left 5 minutes before we started recording. We had to beg. Coach had to come back on. No, I'm kidding. All right, Coach Justin, I want to know the story of, you know, so you're on staff at Whitney Young. I met you 2 years ago on the first day of practice. We were talking. You told me about your passion about training players and developing players. So now here you are. You're head coach at Kenwood, school I've been to a number of times. I did a program in high school. I know it's a very special place. What's the story of how you became the head coach at Kenwood?
Well, I mean, you know, talk about Kenwood, we first got to start with my first opportunity being back at, you know, Whitney Young. I was fortunate enough. I'm a basketball trainer as well, so through doing a lot of personal training with kids, it's kind of how I first met, you know, Coach Ty, and you know they gave me an opportunity to coach a 7th grade team with Main Streets, and it's funny because he had sent Tyler Beard to a tryout for me. He's like, I got this kid, you know, I want you to see. I'm like, okay, well, send him to the trial. I check him out, see if he can play. And he's like, if I send him to you, that means he can play. And you know, once Tyler came, and I was completely fascinated, you know, with his ability and his athleticism at that age. You know, I began coaching that team, and I remember over the summer, Coach Ty had came to watch one of our games. We was at a tournament, and his team was playing, and he came to check us out in between because he was looking at Tyler. And I think we ran about 9 different plays in that first half. And, you know, he was like, dude, y'all ran 9 plays in the first half, and y'all scored off them. And I was like, well, that's pretty much the objective. You know, he's like, you know, you do really well at getting kids to focus on the concepts of, you know, the different nuances in the plays at an early age. And he was like, how you do it? And I was just like, you know, I have a passion for just teaching the game. And I was like, they really good kids. And, you know, he was telling me at the time that he had a spot open at Whitney Young. And at that time, I was so newly getting involved with just working with the kids with basketball. I wasn't really sure that I wanted to step into coaching at that point. But, I mean, it was Whitney Young, and then I had an opportunity to grow under the tutelage of a great coach in Ty. So that brought me over to Whitney Young. And, you know, once I got there immediately, I fell in love with the process of just preparing a team rather than a kid one-on-one training. And, you know, I was very gracious to be able to come into a situation under a coach who have had so much experience and so much success, and just being able to learn from him and how he moved really put me in a position to be able to accept something like a position at Kenwood. You know, you think of Whitney Young on the west side and Kenwood on the south side. You know, it's been said that Kenwood is the Whitney Young of the south side, even though we're working on our own identity. But
good.
We're in a position to understand, you know, all that it entails in terms of taking a job at a school such like Kenwood. So, you know,
but wait, Justin, can you tell everybody what your position was at Whitney Young? So they need to know what your position was at Whitney Young.
I mean, at Whitney Young, we all have, you know, we don't look at the coach. We are all coaches, but for myself, I had the title. You know,
wait, what was the title?
I was associate head coach.
There we go. Oh, wait, it wasn't assistant to the head coach? It was.
No, he was associate head coach.
I heard Coach Ty talking on a podcast yesterday about just coaches being able to show that they're valuable and to be able to exhibit that value that they have to the program each and every day. So, you know, I didn't want to look at myself as just being, you know, an average coach on the staff, even though all the coaches on the staff was very phenomenal. But I wanted to just put myself in a position that I was stepping into the direction that I was hopefully will be able to get to. And now I'm at this point, you know, I really enjoy being an assistant under Coach Ty, but I knew at some point, you know, I was going to have to stretch my wings at some point. And, you know, seeing myself as a associate head coach before I actually became a head coach, I think it was very vital for me because I had already visualized myself being in such a position.
So we've talked a lot on this podcast about the issues facing the coaching profession, things like pay. And my question to you is, why do you want to get into this? This is for both of you guys. You know what the hours are. You know what the pay is like. This is something that, you know, officiating, they're having an incredibly hard time recruiting young officials. Almost every type of fraternal order there is, you know, is having trouble recruiting young people. Why is this something that you've chosen to invest your limited free time in, for both of you?
Well, for me, let me go ahead and really say this: the pace, what we do as coaches. But like I mentioned earlier before, you know, my dad passed at the age of me being 9 years old, and you know, I was some great people in my life, some great mentors that kind of helped guide me. You know, I grew up in a really, really rough neighborhood. You know, it's drug infested, gang infested, and I could have went either way. You know, a lot of my friends and relatives, you know, they went a different route than me. So just understanding how having great mentors in your life can help shape you and keep you on the right path was very important to me. And just to be able to work with kids and to see them grow, not just as basketball players, but as people, it's just very gratifying. And, you know, I feel doing part of my purpose.
Yeah, and I'm similar to Justin. Like I came up on the west side, drug infested neighborhood. Sports was my way out. To way to get away, you know, just to go play some basketball, stay out the way. There's so much going on. And there was a coach that was involved in my life named Charles Bo Delaney. He coached the Wolfpack when I played on Wolfpack. And I seen him do so many things for people that had nothing to do with basketball. I seen him help families that needed things that had nothing to do with basketball. And I always said, if I had a chance to be able to help somebody, I would. And coaching basketball in the Chicago Public League, it's bigger than coaching basketball. You become a part of these kids' lives. And the good thing about it is, like Justin said, and I've seen Nick do it and Rob do it, and of course Ty do it. The biggest thing is seeing these guys growing to men and come back and be successful and being a family man and being a good person and just knowing that you had a hand in it, that you had something to do with the success. You don't want credit for it. You just want to have something to do with the young man being successful in life and giving them the right things and tools and knowledge and understanding that it's bigger than basketball, giving them some life learned lessons. And it's just a blessing to be able to be involved in these young guys' lives.
And before we move on to the next topic, I want to hear from some of the older people in this room who have been in their shoes. What is the advice that you wish you would have been given when you were their age?
For me, maybe I think I because I had such a good team when I came in, and it's funny, I was just thinking about this because I was thinking about, you know, the show and just being a little cocky when I came in. I wish I would have been a little bit more humble. And I was probably a little bit more cockier because I had Derrick Rose and I had Tim Flowers and I had a good group of people. So it was like, oh, we're going to win. But I remember we were playing Julian and they had Sean Dockery down. And we were playing at Simeon, and that's a place you never lose at. And they beat us. And Lauren Jackson, he was like, you talk too much. And I'm like, what do you mean? He says, you just doing too much talking and you ain't even worried about coaching. And it kind of helped me, you know, start preparing like I'm overdoing it and just be prepared to coach my team. And then if I win, if I want to talk, I can talk, but you can't talk before the game. So that kind of helped me out a lot. And Justin, I had to do that to Justin too, so don't worry about it. I had to show Justin the banners. But you guys are getting something that we probably didn't get either. This podcast and us being able to be on with you guys. I don't think we had this opportunity. We kind of was thrown in the fire a little bit early just to go ahead.
What you want to tell? You want me to go tell you?
I'm gonna let you go because you're in the same conference, so you all should go back to back.
Well, probably coming in a little more humble because I played the game and I've been around a number of good players, and I thought it's all about coaching, but you got to have some players too to win. But I go to a little story my father told me when I first took over, and we won our first 3-4 games, and he said, now it's gonna get hard for you. He said it's gonna be hard for you, so you got to stay humble and you got to always think, stay in the moment. So, once I lost a few games, I got a little humble, but I think I probably should have came in a little more humble. Learned a little bit about the high school game because I really didn't know nothing about no high school game. I never knew, So I was coaching a lot of AAU basketball and everything, so it was always fast paced. So I never really knew until the game slowed down, and once I figured that part out, I was fine. But coming in probably a little bit humble.
Yeah, I think when you look at it from a perspective of being a new coach, I tell people all the time, and I remember when I got a call about a coach to become a head coach, and I said to him, the one thing you don't know about head coaching is how to be a head coach until you're a head coach. Nobody knows how to be a head coach until that day comes. And I think for me, there were probably, of course, what Rob and Nick said, and you probably talk to most coaches, the reason these guys are successful is because they were a little arrogant, a little cocky, or whatever the term might be or you choose to use. And I clearly exhibited those same characteristics. I think for me, I would like, if I could go back, and two of the things that I would do a little differently, one would be I would try to forge better relationships with the guys I coached against. I didn't do a very good job of that. I was kind of a guy on an island by myself. And I think that's why today there's still a perception that I'm kind of an arrogant, pompous kind of guy, which in actuality, that's not who I am, not overtly. I think that's one. And the other thing, and I know it seems kind of trivial, but I would have had a much better relationship with officials. I was probably number one hated by officials, not just in the city, but probably anywhere, because again, it goes back to that same premise of being cocky and the rest of that. And it didn't bode well for me. It didn't bode well for my teams. And I think at times they leveled the playing field against us. And, we're being honest. And I think those are the two things, really forging better relationships with the guys that I coached against, and really just kind of dealing with officials. And the last kind of general thing that I would do differently is I wouldn't schedule Rob or Nick to play ever again, and I would have about 30 extra wins right now if I didn't do that. So that's the other thing I learned. Okay, that's the other thing I learned. Don't schedule those guys.
Yeah. I think Tom probably, and since you're the first hated by official, I'm the second.
Okay, and you know what? I'll agree with that. I'll probably agree with that. Yeah. And then I know Lou has to be in there somewhere, so it's a nice synergy. And they're too afraid to hate Rob. I don't know why. They want to hate him, but they're afraid to hate him. I don't know what it is, because he tells them you'll never work again. I'm gonna start doing that.
Every time I got to a point, I say, "Nah, I ain't gonna say that to these officials."
It doesn't pay. It don't pay. It does not pay. The same one you just yelled and screamed at and said some Sunday school words to, you're going to see him tomorrow. And he remembers the words you use. So I stopped talking to him. Ain't no sense in talking to him. Nope, not me.
All right, so Coach Carlos, we're talking about why are you in this? You're going to have tough times from parents. You're going to have referees that are driving you crazy. Pay's bad. What's your reaction to this wisdom you're hearing, and do you have any questions for them?
Well, we'll be talking forever if I start asking questions, but I talk to Ty sometimes. I got a good relationship with Rob. That's why I say, it's bigger than basketball. Rob invite me out. You know, we talk. He give me knowledge. You know, we talk
Whoa,
about.
whoa. Time out.
So,
Rob
but-
does what? We
Yeah,
just talked about this last night, Rob. Y'all never invite me out. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You all invite the rookies out, but you never invite me out. We just talked about this last night. That's somebody. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Carlos. You go
Yeah,
ahead.
so-
I talked to you offline, Rob. I talked to you offline.
So he invites me out. So one of the funniest things, I don't know if you guys are my Facebook friend, but I had put up a post on Facebook with a picture with me, Rob, Lou. It was like a lot of the great coaches in the public league. And I asked a question. I said, what do you guys notice about this picture? And everybody got it right. Like, you the only one have never won nothing. But it's like, you know, coming around a good company and like coaching against Ty over there. Like my first year, he gave me a little confidence. We played a game at North Lundale, and it's a 32-minute game, and I probably led 31 minutes and 20 seconds of the game. He had a guy on his team called DJ Stewart who put me away in the last 20. I was like, oh my God. But the last time I played him, he made sure that didn't happen again. I came in the gym and he jumped on my head and he was up probably about 30, 40 points. And I didn't know which way to turn. He was beating me so bad. But he always have been the same, no matter what was going on, wherever I see Ty at. If it's an AU, watching some AU games, and the same thing with Rob. Like, everybody think these guys are probably arrogant or cocky, but you got to get to know them personally for yourself. And once you get to know these guys, you will know that they are good people, and they there to help you. If you need help with anything, they will help you. They will give you knowledge and understanding, but they also will kick your butt. So you got to know that too. And that's a part of the game. So I take everything from these guys, and just getting a chance to play with them is a privilege. You know, they city and state champs. I played against Nick also, but I was assistant coach over, you know, at North Lundale, at Morgan Park. So just a chance to be able to watch these guys and see how they react to certain things and be able to put that on under my belt. It's just been a blessing for me when I'm coaching here.
Wonderful. Anything to add before we jump into the mailbag here?
Yeah, Carlos, it wasn't personal. Just take it. We were lucky that day.
Hey, beating somebody up and loving them is not mutually exclusive. You can do both.
Yeah, because those two guys on the other side have done it to me so many times, and we get along just well. I mean, so many times.
Hey, we did it to each other, man.
Yeah, definitely. And for both of you guys, like Ty said about him being a little bit off from the coaches, it's probably going to be real important that you guys be the ones, and you might can grab some other guys with you, and you guys be the ones who show the other guys the way. Mm-hmm. You know, and you guys can be the ones who start all of that. You know, so I think that'd be very good if you guys can get some other guys and y'all get some of the younger guys who's starting to coach, and y'all can try to help them build better relationships with each other, and you guys have a unity. You know, you're going to be competitive when you're playing against each other, but off the court, you guys can build something that can be very special here in the public league.
Yeah, and also, Carlos, you're doing a great job over there. You just got to keep it going, and, you know, just make sure you keep doing things the right way like you've been doing. You're on a great path. Just continue to do what you do. And Justin, I've been following Justin forever. You know, he came out of our program. So, you know, I saw Justin, you know, grow from a boy to a man, and, you know, he always been fiery. He always been a great basketball player. And now he's becoming a great coach. You know, I just had to humble him and welcome him to the public. You know, that's you know.
At the end of the first quarter, we was tied. I told the guys, I said, listen, all the teams we played up until that point, I thought they was okay. I said, you know, when we play somebody really good, I'm going to tell you guys. So I told them before the game, listen, I ain't going to BS you. This one of them teams, okay? To finish, okay? I said, make them comfortable on the floor, we're going to play very badly. And so, like, the first quarter, we was tied. We going to halftime, we was down 6. I said, listen, you guys going to ACC and Big Ten schools. Oh, we in trouble. You got it? And that second half exploded on us.
Yeah, Justin had them nice shoes on though. I said, man, little fella trying to show me up. But Justin gonna be a great coach, man. He get better and better every time I see him. And you know, when he coached with the Five for a little bit, he was with us, and I just sit back and watch him, man. He knew X's and O's. He knew how to manage a practice. He knew how to do a number of things. And, you know, I was proud of him, see him coming from, you know, because I saw him playing in high school. So now I see him doing this now, man. I'm proud of him.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll jump in, Gordon, real quick because two things. I think I've had an opportunity to watch Carlos at North Lawndale as a sophomore coach, I think, and then as an assistant on varsity. And like anything, and we've talked about this before, even on here, it's one thing to assume a job and to come after a great Rob. Had the fortune of doing that. He came after Hambrick, and he's managed to take that program to levels unseen by men. You now have an opportunity to take over a program after a legend. You have the responsibility to keep it moving. And, of course, you're going to do some things your way, but you have the opportunity to keep it going. Justin, he actually came out of Whitney Young, and we're very proud of all that he was there. I mean, he was instrumental in all that we did. So much of what we were able to do would not have been possible had it not been for his involvement. And he got his opportunity to lead his own program. And, you know, it's not always easy. All of us can attest to that. And all of us did not inherit Derrick Rose and those guys in our first year. So until you get that, you have to work. You have to work. You have to be committed to working. And again, I know Justin. I know that he is committed to working because I know what he was when he was with me. And if he's half of what he was when he was with me, now it's his, I'm sure he's going to do well. I think as Rob has said, and what we want to really kind of hammer home today as we do this interview, you guys are next. You guys are next. I mean, so in being next, you have to guard it, but you also have to elevate it. And whatever it is that you've seen us do, and if you could take the good or the bad or whatever, your job is to take it and just take it to the next level. That's really what this is all about. It's about taking it to the next level. It's about growing your whole group of young coaches and committing and challenging each other. I think when we talk about it every week, but because you guys are on here, we'll say it to you guys. And Justin, you were there. We wanted to beat Simeon every time we played them. We wanted to beat Morgan Park every time we played them. We wanted to beat North Lawndale every time we played them. But all of us were friends. And we talked after those games. Why? Because the game is the game, but it's so much more to it than the game. And I would hope that all of our young coaches would recognize that as they go forward, especially in our community, the way things are. It's so much hostility and so much crime. Coaches can be friends and still want to win. They don't have to be, you know, the same. No, you can want to win, but you still be friends. And so, again, welcome. And I can assure you that Justin told me about the time you beat him, and I was gonna go over there like big brother and beat you for him, and you beat me. So I couldn't even help him. I couldn't even help the man. I couldn't even help him.
Well, I love it. All right, guys, time to dive into the mailbag here. First one. Okay, Justin, do you think Coach Pop, so you played in the Spurs organization. I imagine you got a chance to witness him in a way that nobody's got a chance to witness, not even people that have watched every single Spurs game. What made Pop a special coach, and what would it be like if he coached a public league team?
Oh man, he was just so serious, but he had like this dry humor that like you didn't know if you should laugh or if he was like you shouldn't say anything. And like his attention to detail and the stuff that he's seen on the floor might not even be things you would think about at the time that it's happening. One of the things I got from being around him is just every nuance of the game is important for the game, or it wouldn't be a part of the game at all. I think if he's in a public league, I think he would have 1 million emails from parents. How long practices are, because he talks a lot, you know, and he's explaining things in detail a lot, so you can kind of understand what he's expecting of you. So I think a lot of our parents, because I dealt with it at Kenwood this year, just practices being too long or too many days out the week. I like to be in the gym every day, all day. So I think for him, if he was in a public league, he obviously would be phenomenal, but it'll be a lot of parents who would send up 1,000 emails about him because of how he do things. They just won't be used to it.
Then, Carlos, what was your level of involvement with Coach Cox? I realized that you kind of came in at the end of when he was still part of the basketball world, but what did you kind of learn from him? And do you think he could still be that successful in 2020?
Of course. You think Rob said he was cocky, or you think Ty said he was cocky. I came up, I was a good basketball player. I was one of these guys who was a great, and I played good basketball. But Coach Cox, he was very flamboyant. He was very cocky. When I came in, he was confident in what he was doing. He knew he was going to win. He expected nothing but to win. He thought he would never lose. That's a guy I saw coach. He thought he could never lose. So Coach Cox I believe he'll be a state champion in this era because the way he coached. I do believe that.
That's so cool. All right, another question for you. I'd love to get everybody's answer on this. Who is the most intense mental player on the court? Meaning, who was the most intense sort of, I'm locked in, I'm going into Wolverine mode here. I just have this elite mental focus. I'll give you some time to think. My answer is Jacob Pullen is somebody who I probably saw lock in better than almost anybody I've ever seen. I remember I watched him at the Proviso West tournament before he had a big name. Everybody was there to watch Brian Carwall, the big guy who went to Illinois and then San Diego State. But I remember Jacob stripped whoever they were playing 5 times. It must have been in a quarter, if not a quarter and a half. And I just remember thinking, who is this dude who is planting both of his feet and saying, try to get around me? And I remember just thinking, like, I'd be terrified to go against him right now. He was just locked in. Who's a player like that? Not necessarily the most talented, but who has the most mental intensity that you've ever seen, either as a spectator, coach, or playing against them?
Well, I'm going to go playing against, and I'm going to say Patrick Beverly. When he was in high school, he wasn't as skilled. He did a lot of scoring off his defense. And he was locked in every time he stepped on the court. I mean, he could never stop moving. You could tell he knew what he was doing, and his defensive effort out there every game he played was good. A lot of kids at this age, or they don't really want to play defense like that, and that was his thing. And still today, that's what he does. I don't think he got enough credit in high school on how well he played defense, but I thought he was always locked in if I had to go to one person that I coached against.
Well, for me, I'm gonna stay away from my guys, but from me,
yeah, somebody that you haven't coached, because I just want to, you're freed. I know there's a lot of politics here, so assuming that you can't name somebody that you've coached, let's just free everybody from that.
I coached a lot of people. G.
we don't want to hurt any feelings. We're not here to cause conflict.
Well, I could just say,
we're here to celebrate.
From me, Jeremy Richmond. I thought Jeremy Richmond was the guy that could dominate a game on both ends of the floor. I've seen him do it. Watched him do it a number of times, and when he locked in, he was probably the best player on the floor at all times, and possibly in the country. He could score at a number of levels. He got the mid range. He had the post up game. He could play point guard, so he could do a number of things on the basketball floor that could change the complexity of the game. And for me to see that out, and he was 6'7", 6'8", do everything on the floor, and it was just a treat to watch him.
And did it for him? Some guys are like that all the time. I get the feeling like Pat Bev is like that all the time. Some guys, they flip the switch when they cross into the court. That's when they go into kill mode. What was it like for Jeremy? Because he's a pretty friendly guy off the court, especially now. I think he's softened up. Did he flip that switch, or was he always like that?
When he flipped that switch, he a bad boy. I seen him run off 25 consecutive points, and he just was just a different animal. He that mid-range game he had was crazy, and And the way he approached the game and how athletic he was second to none.
All right, who's up next? Somebody that was just locked in an elite way that scared the crap out of you.
Well, I'm sorry. I've got three quick names for you. Three quick names, and I think once I call them, everybody will say, "Yep, you're right." And one of the first guy I'm going to call out, I was still afraid of him 10 years, 15 years after he was done playing. Johnny Selby.
Yeah.
Johnny Selby.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was.
Sleep
He
out.
looked, when you saw him on the court, you realized that it was about to be tough tonight. It was about to be tough tonight. And I swear, when he stopped playing and he started working for the board, and I would have to talk with him, I was like afraid, like maybe I'll have somebody else call Johnny and talk with him. I mean, but just a monster on the court, but really a phenomenally nice dude off the court. I was actually surprised because I didn't think anybody that mean could be that nice. I mean, I just didn't. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't. This next young man was a guy that they never ran one play for him. He didn't really score the ball, and he was always the beginning and the end of our game plan. He went to North Lawndale, Jonathan Mills. Unbelievable. I'm watching a game. He gets a block with one hand, and he comes back down and he blocks the ball with another hand. We lose the game because we cannot keep him off the glass because he's just a monster.
Yeah.
After the game, the nicest guy in the world. I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy. Here's a guy who got shot and was playing like that week. I mean, how do you do that? How do you get shot and come back and play in the same week? It was crazy. It was crazy. And then the last guy, now this, and I saw him up close and personal. And I think about it today, and I was actually telling someone this. I'm amazed. This guy was a complete maniac. Tim Flowers, a complete nut. Yeah. His own teammates were afraid of him. And I know that the coaches are going to say it, but hell, Rob was scared of Tim. I mean, what are you talking about?
Well, Rob, isn't he older than you? He was 30 in high school, wasn't he?
But I tell you, you talking about an enforcer, a guy, Derek could not have asked for a better running mate. Oh, no. There was nothing going to happen to Derek, not while Tim was in the city. You could be on the court, nothing's – I mean, it was unbelievable. And, again, here's a guy when he was off the court, he was like a big teddy bear, and now he's doing a phenomenal job as a coach, and he'll be a guy that'll be on this program one day. But those are just three guys that I had a chance to watch, play against that in some measure, and just – you're talking about just laser-focused and tough. I mean, knock down just, like I said, I mean, tough guys.
I got to touch on that too, Ty. Jonathan Mills was probably top 5 one of my favorite players because,
come on, man. Please.
Man, he like when I coached him, so he used to tell me he don't want to be in no pick and rolls. He doesn't want to be in that short corner, and he want to rebound. He wants to take charges. He just wants to be nasty with it down there. I got a story with Jay Mills. We was in Ohio playing in an AU tournament, and we was playing Derek Favors. And he went on prom the night before, and I'm like, man, can you make it? He said, yeah. So we go pick him up from the airport. He in the airport. He laying on the couch sleeping. We playing about 2 hours. He laying on them little chairs in the airport sleeping. So all he kept saying was, "Get me to the game, Joe. Get me to the game, Joe." That's all he kept saying. So I said, "Man, you good? You was on prom." Now he had on his tuxedo. Now his prom tux, his shoes. He just said, "Get me to the game, Joe." That's all he was saying. So he get to the gym. I said, "Man, you good? Here goes some water." He said, "No, I'm good." Man, he went out there and had 27 rebounds. Unbelievable. He had 20 points and 27 rebounds, and we won. I said, oh, man, he's crazy. And Tim Flowers was scary. Like, he was 6'5", and you thought he was 7 feet tall. He didn't care who you were. Like, Tim Flowers he had so much heart. and that determination just came out every time he played the game. I always loved Tim Flowers.
That's awesome. All right. Coach
See,
Justin.
I always get you started, Nick. I always get you started.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do, man.
Hey.
I'm throwing you lobs. All you have to
Yeah,
do
you
is
do. Yeah, them two play so hard, man.
I've got the rundown of the topics, and Derek Favors' prom story was not on the list, but I'm glad it was there. That was great.
Yes.
What was the connection there? How did you get linked up with Derek Favors?
We played an AAU tournament out there. He played for the Atlanta Celtics.
It was tough.
And why were you in charge of getting him to the game?
No, Jay Mills.
Oh,
Jay Mills played on our team.
Gotcha.
No, Jay Mills played on our team.
That's crazy.
I wasn't going to no AAU tournament without Jay Mills. No sirree.
That's
I
amazing.
couldn't leave without Jay Mills.
What an era. Shoot, we could do a whole Atlanta episode. That era of Atlanta basketball was epic. Josh Smith, et cetera, Dwight Howard. All right. JB and Carlos, who you got? Who's the most just locked in, ferocious mental competitor that you've
So with me it's crazy, especially by me and Ty coaching in the same conference. I don't supposed to agree with him on nothing, but it's crazy that he said that, because I'm sitting here thinking when I went to watch King play, the Johnny Selby guy, man, like, oh my God. Like when he run in the gym, he get your attention. I'm like, wow, who is this dude? And he was just, like he said, he was ferocious. He was tough around the basket, athletic, rebound the ball, like go hard, 150% all the time while he's on the floor. And my other guy, which I never coached him, but I just was around him, Jay Mills. I went to see Jay Mills play in an outside tournament. Coach Thorpe was coaching an outside tournament. I'll never forget this. He get elbowed in his eye. And Thorpe was telling everybody the story, but I never told people I was there to see because it was just amazing. And he's bleeding. And he's out the game. He got blood coming everywhere, and the game is close. And Mills is like, put me back in the game. Put me back in the game.
I don't like him.
And Coach like, man, you bleeding. Like, you can't go back in the game. He goes and gets something and puts it on his eye, something like, and wraps it in his eyes. I'm serious. And Coach puts him back in the game, and he go out there and was like a rebounding machine, man. Like, that dude, and he's the nicest guy. Like, if you talk to Mills off the court, he's a good guy to get along with. He's like a big teddy bear. You know, he's a guy, if he's playing with you, you love him. If you're playing against him, you hate him.
You hate him. I know we did. We hated him for 4 years. Jesus Christ.
Oh, you got a chance to win every game with him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
yeah, he gonna take charges, rebound, guard the best defense. He don't care.
The one thing you do when you have to.
Every coach, like my son, in the portal, every coach they call, the ones that, you know, I coached Mills before. So, like, if you had a chance to coach Mills, they're going to put that out there. Like, I was able to handle Mills. I coached Mills before.
Yeah.
So, like, he was something different, man. He was special.
Man, Mills.
All right, well, we're going to have a special pop-in guest here in a minute to tell a quick story. That's a special surprise. Justin, I want to hear your pick. Who's the most locked-in mental person you ever saw?
Well, I had a few as well that I played with back in high school in AAU. One of the guys, you know how you can play with somebody and they got a lot of hype, and you might feel like, yeah, they nice, but man, they got a lot of hype though. This particular day, he proved me that the hype was real, and this was Sean Dockery.
Yeah.
North Carolina in the Bobby Givens tournament in Tar Heel.
That was a bad boy.
And we was down 30 at halftime. I don't even know how you get down 30 in an AAU game with a running clock, but we was down 30 at halftime. And, you know, you have some games where you like, yeah, we're going to get ready for this next game because you're playing 3 and 4 games in a day. And so he tells like, we're not losing this game. We from Chicago. We got to come down here and embarrass Chicago. We finna get out here. We finna come back. And honestly, I'm looking at him like, hey, bro, this one is over. We down. Come out and he led the charge, and he got about 10 steals in the backcourt in that second half. And I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like, oh, he cold. Oh, that's like, and it wasn't about him being tough. terms of like trying to intimidate somebody, it was just his will. You know, his will to get the job to win. I got a chance to witness it on the floor with him, and I was amazed. I had turned into a fan that game. Then I had a couple guys in college I played with. One of them was a kid, Otheus Jeffers.
Oh yeah.
He was unbelievable in terms of his relentlessness, guarding people, his intimidation that he posed on the court. I mean, he lived in a dorm room next to me in the school. He had 3 pit bulls in his room. I'm like, why do you have dogs in your room? Just how those pit bulls responded if you knocked on his door. I just remember always having that desire to, get an opportunity to make it to the NBA. And, with so many people trying to say, oh, he can't shoot, he can't do this, he can't do that. He just had that dog in him, and it was hard to contain him at times. I remember one time after a game, we lost the game, he was chewing me out and was chewing him out because we was the leaders of the team. And he said something like this. Lost it. He picked up all the pieces when we would eat after the game, threw him over the room. And I was like, oh, he's a wow.
That's amazing.
Just seeing how focused he would be on the court and giving everything that he had within him to help us. And I really appreciated him for that.
And I think he just started his own business, right? He's doing a car detailing. I saw on Facebook. He just
Yeah,
it was really cool. Man, he was awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Well, this is a special surprise guest. If we're talking Johnny Selby, we got to talk to one of his college teammates. My great friend and brother, Rodney Walker here, New Mexico State Aggie, Decatur City Councilman, former college dunk contest competitor. And if you saw him dunk, you wouldn't think he's a nice guy, but he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Coach Rodney Walker, just texted you, popped in. We got to hear about Johnny Selby in college. What was he like?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you. What was Johnny Selby like?
Oh man, Johnny was something special, man. Johnny got this big reputation coming from the city. You know what I'm saying? Especially when he was in high school. Johnny, he was running things in high school. His reputation precedes itself for sure. But he did 2 years of junior college. When I first met him, was when he got to Cruces, probably in June or so of 1990, 93, 94. And then I eventually come down there. Me and Keith Johnson come down there. I got down there probably about a week or so before Keith Johnson. Johnny was already down there early in the summer with Thomas Wyatt. So when I got off the plane and got over there, Thomas had picked me up, and I finally got a chance to meet Johnny. And I go up to his room, and he, big old Johnny. I'd heard all the stories about it.
So we're talking about his mental focus and just how intense he was. Did you notice that?
Yeah, when I first met him, I looked at him like, man, what is he even doing in college? Johnny looked like he was about 30 years old already, man. Straight up, But I think we was gonna click because when I first met Johnny, he had his hat cocked to the right, I had mine cocked to the left, so I said, oh man, we're gonna have some problems. But it all worked out, man. He was one of the big brothers on the team, man, and he was a beast down low. I mean, he was only about 6'4.5", 6'5", but you know what? He got down there and banged with the best of them. We played Alabama. He held his own against Mick Dice and them. He did his thing against. He had some trouble with Gary Trent when we played them in Madison Square Garden. Gary Trent hit us up about 36 and 26. Oh. So we had some problems. But Johnny was a beast down low, and everybody in the Big West respected him. They would talk trash. The guys would talk trash to everybody else, but when it came to Johnny shut up the whole conference. Did nobody in the conference mess with Johnny, and we knew Johnny had our back, so we was all good. But you know what? Besides Johnny's reputation, man, he had the biggest heart in the world, man. Biggest heart in the world, man. He, like I say, he did his 2 years in junior college over there in Idaho. He totally changed his life around, man. He came to New Mexico State, hit the books, and man, Johnny was a beast on the court and off the court, Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Coach Rodney? We want to have you on for a full episode here, but I just had to get that Johnny Selby story from you.
Yeah, Johnny's something special, man. I haven't caught up with him much. You know, I'm in the city every day. I don't get to catch up with him as much as I used to. But you know, me and Keith, we see each other every other week or so like that. But where Johnny at?
He around. He just working. He just working. He was at the funeral for Cox's funeral, so he was there. Right. But he just working. He just still moving the same way. He just working and taking care of his family.
I know he's been involved with the public school for a while.
Yeah,
you know.
He's still doing that. He's over one of the stadiums.
Okay.
He's over one of the stadiums. I think it's Ecclesall. He's over Ecclesall Stadium. So
he still stay outside?
Yeah, he still live on the south side. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, I'm about to catch
up. When we get done, I'm gonna call him and tell him that you asked about him.
Yeah, tell him shame on him, man. He know better, man. I'm in the city. I'm in the city every day. It's been too many years. We ain't caught up, man.
We got a question for you. When you were there, was it a guy that named Gerard Hughes?
Nah, Gerard Hughes wasn't there with me.
Okay, he had left there. Okay.
Yeah, he was left. When I was there, it was a year after Sam Crawford and them had left. I came in, me, Keith Johnson, Thomas Wyatt, Johnny Selby, Ron Coleman still had a year.
Okay, so Gerard came in. Gerard was the year before you guys, and I think he got kicked off the team, but he was the year before y'all.
Yeah,
he tore his ACL. He tore his ACL and some other stuff happened to him.
Yeah, he was there with Sam Crawford and them.
Okay, yeah, okay.
That crew. Yeah.
And you missed Randy Brown by 2 years?
Yeah, I missed Rambo by a couple of years, man. Rambo and them played they played with Tim and them when Tim and them was over there at UTEP, man. They came in at 91 or so around there when they was the only ones that beat Larry Johnson and them over UNLV that year.
Yeah.
That was a crazy conference back then.
But we always had the Chicago, Illinois pop line though, because you had Reggie Jordan on the team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not for sure if Chris Hill was on that team or not, but the pipeline from Illinois pipeline was just something crazy from New Mexico State to UTEP. Yeah. You know, and Randy and them were the ones that started it, and that was one of the reasons that we did go to New Mexico State because of all the hype that they was getting and being raked all year. You know, that's what did it for us. Actually, Keith was supposed to have been playing a couple years before me. Keith and Johnny way older than me. I was the baby out there.
You're right.
I wasn't even 21 when I left New Mexico.
He was getting buckets. He was out there getting buckets, man.
Rodney I'm going to put this in the podcast. Rodney sent me this photo of, it looks like you, Keith Johnson, and Johnny Selby. Are you in Times Square?
Yeah, I think we was in Times Square headed to Brooklyn. That's the reason why, you know, we out west, we play all of our games late at night, you know, super late. And then we got that early, what is that, CBS or whatever game, come on early the next day. We weren't used to playing early like this. So we out in Brooklyn probably about 3 a.m. Got to get up and play Gary Trent, Ohio U, and Gary Trent went to work on us. It went double overtime. Like I said, Gary had about 36 and 20-something. I ain't going to put that all on Johnny Selby.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Johnny did what he could do, though. Like I said, Johnny was a beast down there. We played Memphis. They had David Vaughn, Cedric Henderson, Lorenzo Wright. Johnny went to work on them boys, and Johnny was only 6'5".
That's awesome. Well, Rodney, can we have you back on and spotlight you in a different episode?
Yes, anytime, man.
You're the best.
Okay.
I love it.
Brothers, take it easy,
Thanks
brother.
so much for the drop in.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, you can show Nick dropping some of them jumpers off at Fresno State too.
Yes, sir.
Hey, yes, sir. All right, bro.
Okay.
Thanks, Rodney. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so we got that perspective. We got the double mailbag here. Follow-up question here is, who is a player that you're convinced was older than 18 years old? In all good humor. But who is another man-child that you can remember where you're like, you got a wife and kids, you're not 18 years old. So Tim Flowers is up there. Who are just other people that were just man-child?
For me, Nate Manoy.
Yeah.
Nate Manoy.
Yeah, we all gonna go with that one.
How old was Nate Manoy? How old do you think Nate Manoy was his last year at Hales?
When he came in the gym, he was like, there's no way he in high school. Period. I mean, I'm talking about when he was a freshman. He was just big like that, you know. But he was definitely the right age.
Are you sure? Did you see his birth certificate?
Yeah, he was the right age.
He was the right age.
He was the right age.
I think
He
we all
just
got.
was.
Yeah,
he
that's
just
my
was-
pick too.
He just was big. He just was big. He was a big kid.
That's awesome. Justin, who's the old man that you played against where you're like, you're not 18 years old?
And we played my senior year. Played against Morgan Park. They had a player, Quinnell Brown. Oh man. I'm like, my gosh, that's like grown. You know, like he was a officer guard, and he looked like he was grown.
Yeah.
He was a man child for real.
Well, I think
There was another kid I think at Morgan Park that was like that. Jeremiah Dobine. Do you all remember Jeremiah Dobine?
Jeremiah Dobai, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Jeremiah
God,
Dobai.
yeah.
He went to Dobai went to Harper. Is it Harper? No,
He was
South
on
Shore.
Harper.
South
He was
Shore.
on South Shore. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, he was another one. He was built like a double grown man. He was amazing. He had calves like softballs. It was unbelievable. Yeah, he was a big guy.
Actually,
Yeah.
another one too is Paul McPherson.
Oh man.
Oh, McPherson. Oh yeah.
Paul
yeah,
McPherson
yeah.
was a man child.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yep. And
The-
could jump
the
out of
gold-
the gym.
the gold standard for looking old and being a man child is probably Nate Thurmond. I don't know if you ever saw photos of him, but the hairline of a 60-year-old man and the body of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just the most cut, physically just strapped guy, but he just had the hairline like worse than mine, which is saying something. That's awesome. All right, well, I don't know if Carlos is still with us, but I'd love to hear his thoughts. Guys, any closing thoughts before we finish this episode? This was just such an amazing opportunity to hear from some of the younger people. Oh, CT was on the road now.
Yeah.
That's a background. He's got a background. He's got
No, that ain't a background. I'm on my way to a memorial. I ain't advanced like y'all.
No, okay. I thought you had a car background. I'm like, whoa, this is big time.
No, I know, like some of y'all know, but it's been a rough week for me, man. I lost my son on the 2nd of May, and I'm on the way memorial. My brother is burying his oldest son today, so
Wow.
it's been kind of rough for me, man.
Sorry to hear that.
Well,
man.
we know how to add you to the prayer list. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Most definitely need it.
Yes.
Most definitely need it.
How can we be helping you through this really probably the worst month of your life?
Just keep doing what you guys are doing, because what people fail to realize is to get through, you need to see positive guys doing positive things. So, and it give you the will and the drive to want to keep on doing the good things that you have been doing when you see other guys still doing it. With me losing my son, my oldest son, it ain't no room to fold now. It's just it make my mission even that much more stronger to help these young guys and to stay on the right path, in life, to make sure they don't go out like my son did. So just keep doing what you guys are doing. As long as I got some positive to look at, it's always some light. I can always see some light. And that's what it's all about.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
And put your seatbelt on. Put your seatbelt on.
Hey, okay, Ty.
I never put the seatbelt on you.
Safety
You're
first.
making me nervous out there driving without a seatbelt on.
Our priorities
I'm
of,
on the passenger side, but I got it on.
good. The priorities of 13 rings: 1, background game; 2, safety. So we got both.
Yeah.
Any parting thoughts before we end episode 5 here?
Yeah. Once again, I want to thank them guys, and then Carlos. With him going through what he going through at this time, and for him even to jump on the call is huge. It shows his character, and I guess the respect he has for us and what we're trying to do. And Justin, we know everybody has a lot of things that they got going on. Justin has his own podcast he can be doing, but I think is like I said earlier, is no telling how much longer me and Ty is going to be around. I know Nick has already took that jump to the next level. You guys had that same opportunity that Nick has. If you need any help from us, and I'm pretty sure you can talk to Nick about the same thing, we have no problem with helping you if you're trying to make college a dream of yours. We don't have a problem of, trying to help you with that situation as well. And we're just open. If you need us for anything, we're definitely open for it, except my offense or stuff like that, Justin. For the
Call me.
part.
I got it. You can call me. You don't have to worry about that. I got it already. I know the offense. Just call me. I know it.
Yeah, you're right about that.
We can't stop it.
I'm switching it up now because you got it. You sure got it.
Hey, I tell you what, he sure don't use the same offense when he was playing against me.
Well, but last time
he
played you in that little bit of gym. You don't need no offense. Come on, man.
Hey, look, you know what's funny? He's never beat me in Morgan Park. And he probably done beat me more times than Simeon.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yes, sir. Hey,
and you know what the funny part is? I always ask him, why do you play those games at Morgan Park? You can only get 12 people in, and then the rest of it is your family. So I don't know why you play there. I'd play all my games at Simeon if I had that kind of record.
Hey, all called advantage. We trapped the corners. The feet was on the court.
Trap the corners with you on the court too.
But before I get off, I just want to tell Nick, congratulations on your new journey.
Oh, thanks, bro.
And you give me motivation in life because I never thought I'd get you out of 3A. So thank you for taking that job over there. You helped me more than you ever know. And if there's anything you need for me to help
you, you know what, Nick? That's sad. That's sad, Nick, because everybody keeps congratulating you. And they don't really mean it. They just want you out of the way. That's sad.
Hey Nick, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it real with them, Ty. One thing I believe, you got to keep it real. I'm happy for you, Nick, and I'm happy for myself because you're gone.
Hey, I appreciate you, brother.